now that I am back, we need to dive into the speakership drama. So I'm sure you guys have been keeping up with it, but Kevin McCarthy, leader of the Republicans in the House, wanted to be Speaker of the House. And typically, that's how it goes. And we'll give you the most recent updates we have as of now in a second. But to give you kind of the overview, usually the party that gets into the majority decides a person, and because they have the majority, they can vote a majority vote to select that person as the Speaker of the House. Always an easy process. It's been 100 years, to the year if I'm not mistaken, since a party has had to do more votes than just one to select, since the Congress had to do that. Because that deliberation, that decision making usually happens before the actual vote. And so the party can debate, they can push and pull, find the person, get unified around that person, and then it usually is a really easy process. And while this is funny to watch in a sense, because the Republican Party is just a complete mess and Kevin McCarthy keeps being embarrassed and humiliated, it's also really bad because why is it so important the Speaker of the House gets selected? None of the Congress people can be sworn in and actually become Congress people until the Speaker of the House is selected, because the Speaker of the House swears them in. And that prevents Congress from getting to work. That prevents any possible response that would be needed from Congress to all the different issues that are ongoing. And so it matters, and the showmanship and political stunts that are being pulled by this select few of Republicans are preventing Congress from getting back to work, which absolutely does matter, and there's national security risks to that for sure. So as of now, the House has adjourned and they're coming back at 10 p.m. tonight. Kevin McCarthy has said confidently that by tonight he's going to have all the votes he needs. And over the last few days, it's been pretty stale, pretty stagnant, and no movement for the most part as far as votes in a significant way. But just today, Kevin McCarthy got a bunch more votes than he has been getting and is just a few away from that 218 number, which is, of course, a majority in the House, which is what you need to become Speaker. And they wrapped up their 13th vote, 13th loss for Kevin McCarthy. But he says tonight, once the House comes back into session or meets back, he will have the vote. So we'll see that tonight. As I said, this is more confident than I've seen him in a long time, and he did get a boost of votes today, more of those 20 saying, okay, we've had enough concessions made to us by Kevin McCarthy that we are willing to jump over and support him. We'll talk about what those concessions are in a second, but first I want to make a point that the Republican Party, they created this mess, and now they're dealing with it. It's the chickens coming home to roost, or whatever the phrase is. It's what they created, and now they're having to deal with it. And so I think while we are hoping for this to be resolved so that Congress can get back to work, and we understand the dysfunctional nature of what's going on, there's also a level of, yeah, this is what you deserve to be dealing with for the MAGA movement you've allowed and the disconnected from real policy discussions culture you've created. This is what's gonna naturally occur because of that. And so the political showmanship and everything being about political stunts and getting attention, and how kind of the Trumpism, MAGA ideology very much focused on those things, that being allowed and not fought back against by people like Kevin McCarthy is the reason that now it's so out of control that this is occurring. And I think that point is important to be made, and I've heard it made across multiple different platforms and pundits, etc. So with that being said, why did Kevin McCarthy today all of a sudden get so many votes, more than he had been, to be Speaker? Well, apparently, as Mediaite outlines here, there were some huge concessions he's made to the few members of the House Freedom Caucus that are holding all of this up. It's been 20, and now it's down to even less than that. So here's a list of things he's conceded on agreements he's made to get more support and to get so close to 218. Only one House member is now needed to file a motion to vacate the chair, meaning they can file a motion to get rid of the current Speaker of the House. The Freedom Caucus members having a few seats on the House Rules Committee that will allow those members to leverage certain criteria behind voting for bills, so more power to the members that have been holding this up. Voting on a bill setting term limits for members of Congress, so a bill will be brought to the floor if he follows through on this. If it all goes according to plan, that will set term limits for members of Congress, which is not bad. Individual votes on each of the 12 appropriations bills and excluding earmarks from such bills. A vote on legislation surrounding border security, 72-hour notice from release of legislation before voting on it, and a vote on a balanced budget amendment. So some of that, honestly, is not bad, but it shows you that time and time again, this whole debacle has worked for the individuals holding everything up, and they're starting to get everything they could ever want and ask for, and Kevin McCarthy is just completely beholden to their interests in a way we haven't seen in a long time with this small of a group. Now, this has gotten so wild that there are now Republicans, in this case, Representative Don Bacon, a Republican representative, saying, if we don't get this resolved, we're going to start working with Democrats on getting Kevin McCarthy over the finish line as Speaker, which is pretty incredible. Take a look.
This idea of potential support from Democrats and what that would look like. You're talking about sharing committees here? I mean, lay this out for us.
You can adjust ratios. This will be part of the discussions. This is what I am advocating, and others are as well, not just me. If these 20 refuse to be part of the team and don't come on board, we have no other choice but to go across the aisle and start negotiating. And there's a lot of things you can negotiate. Committee ratios is a big one, because ordinarily you get a 4-seat majority.
So giving some concessions to Democrats to win over their support to end this whole process. And then we've talked about, or it's been talked about, we haven't because I've been gone, but the idea of a kind of candidate that's a real moderate Republican and a block of moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats come together to select them. All these different very uncommon things have started to be floated because of what's going on with this small group of Republicans blocking everything. And again, I say, as much as it is funny and almost interesting and a punishment to Republicans kind of to watch all of this, it's also holding up necessary work that should be getting done in Congress that is not because of this process. It is perfectly fine as a party to disagree on who the Speaker should be. Yes. That is supposed to happen before this moment. They had months to debate that. And now it's time to get to work, swear in these members. And another example is constituents. If they have an issue that they want the representative to hear out, they can't reach them. They're not actually a congressperson at this point in time. They're just a congressperson elect. And so their constituent services aren't up and running, which is not good. Very interesting. We'll see what happens tonight at 10 p.m. In DC. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get a full extra show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley, and there's a link in the description.